Today we're going to do a cupcake for my first year on YouTube anniversary. My son kind of got me into YouTube, and he said the other day, you know, you should do a year's anniversary video. I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is the thing that you've got to celebrate your years on YouTube. I was thinking, I was umming and ahhing about doing a cake or a cupcake. I've decided to go with some very funky looking cupcakes. I have already chosen my fabrics. I don't know if you like watching me choose my fabrics. I usually take forever and I'm always sort of coming and going on what I actually end up using. But I've got some really nice bold flowers here and some spots which kind of bring out the same colours. They're going to be little cupcake holders. Got a little bit of brown, which you might see a little bit of for the brownness of the cake. And then I've got some extra little bits, which I might, if there's enough room, do some bunting. So this is going in my felt book, which I have to say is almost like done. It's kind of bulging. I'm not sure how many more pictures I can fit in. So I've got a green felt square. I had used this part of the green for something else, so it's got a little cut out the corner, but I don't think you'll notice that at the bottom. So we're going to have a nice cupcake in the middle, probably with a 1 on it. Then 2 smaller cupcakes. I've got a little bit of lace, which will be along the bottom like a tablecloth where the cupcakes are going to sit, giving it a bit of a nice 3D look as well. I've got some pretty summery colours. That might be a bit bright. I really want this to sort of say summer, like British afternoon tea or the Queen's Jubilee, street parties, that kind of vibe to it. Sort of modern but with a vintage hint with these big flowers and just pretty summer colours. And I think I'm going to do the outline and everything in black to make the colours really pop. I'm not going to use any templates for this. We're just going to go with it and see what happens, which is kind of my favourite way of working. So let's start with our little lace trim. And what I tend to do is lay everything out, see how I want it, and then start sewing things down. And then embellishing with some stitches. So this has a slight curve to it, which I didn't really want because the table is going to be flat. So I think I'll have to sort of try and straighten that as I sew. But that, just holding it in place, that does it, so it should be okay. So this is going to be the case for the cupcake. It does already have like slightly zigzag top to it, which I may try and use. But I also have my pink and shears, which I don't use very often. So any excuse to try and get those used, and I will use it. We're going to try and do sort of half a hexagon shape, I think. We'll kind of do it. Let's see how big we want it. Yeah, that'll probably do it. That's quite big, but better to do it too big and cut it down as you go along. Yeah, I think I probably will take a little bit of that. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look right with the round bottom. Let's chop it. Okay, good. Not sure, I think this might fray quite a bit, but it's okay. And now I've got some white felt. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do this, but I want sort of swirls, dollop of swirls of icing on top, like piped icing, so you can see the twists going around. I think I will just have to add the twists with sewing, but I wonder what it should look like on top. So probably coming up here and round. Quite high. If you have cupcakes nowadays, it's like half cupcake and half icing. We used to do fairy cakes when we were younger, and it was not that way. You got a tiny bit of cream, buttercream in them. Yeah, that's big. Okay. We want a softer bottom to it as well. I think maybe sort of scallop the edges where we want it to look a bit like layers. There we go. Now that actually does not leave a lot of room for like a one candle or anything. So I might bring it all down a little bit. Don't need to see a lot of the cake. And just make this tiny bit smaller all the way round. Right, I'm not entirely sure about my one candle. It could be a little bit of the matching thing with a little flame. I might not even do a one candle. I wasn't gonna. I was kind of focusing on the cakes, but then I thought maybe I will. But we'll see, because if I want the bunting, which will go here, then there's not going to be a lot of room. Now we're going to do a couple of little matching, slightly smaller, spotty ones. So I'm going to use this as a pattern, but we are going to cut it a bit smaller each side so they don't pull focus. There we go, 3 cupcakes, looking good. I am thinking the pinking isn't very obvious, and I think my pinking shears are bigger. Let me just check. Yeah, they are slightly wider, so I'm gonna just take a tiny bit off the top of each of them to make the triangles a little bit more obvious. I think that does it. Yeah. And I will be sewing down each one so it will become more obvious as well. I think with all the stitching that I'm going to add, that will add the detail. I might take the icing down a little bit as we go along. So I think I'm generally going to use one strand of black, but I don't really want the black on the lace, so I'm going to use white for that. And I do have lots of pretty colours, so although the outline is going to be in black, I'm going to add some detail in the stitching. I do try and use my scraps that I've used in other projects for sort of just slow stitching and a lot of my felt book, which is why you'll find I'm looking at pieces of thread like this going, what on earth has happened here? I will figure this out and we will start stitching it all in place. It's a pretty straightforward pattern, so I will take it off while I stitch, but there won't be a problem sort of getting it back how I want it. So I'm just going to use 2 strands of white to start me off with my lace, and I'll probably do back stitch to make sure it's nice and secure. On the whole, I'll probably do in straight stitch and running stitch, which for slow stitching is just my go-to really, because it's so easy and that's what makes it relaxing and mindful. Okay, that is a bit tricky to sew through. There's a number of layers there, but we will do our best as well to keep it straight. Useful if I had a little clip. Do I have something? No, I'm not sure I do. We will keep it in place though with our hand. Of course, we could use some pins. That would be a good idea. Don't need to reinvent the wheel with some kind of special clip. I think it'll be okay. Just do a running stitch because it is quite hard to sew through. This is not the normal felt I use, and there's kind of a stiffness to it. It's a little bit tricky to stitch. It's really nice and thick. I do believe it's still a wool mix, but it's kind of a little bit trickier to stitch with than normal. Not sure where I picked it up from, but it's such a nice bright colour green. It's probably going to stand out of my book a little bit, but that's okay. I think it goes really well with the purpley pinks that we've chosen. Right, this is where there might be some overlap of stitching, and that's all right. So that is pretty much the first one done. I've done a little bit of shading on the cake and I've done a couple of swirl lines. I am going to add some colour to the icing, and I think the cupcake case is looking good. I have found these little embellishments which I'm thinking I might add, as long as there's enough colour on the icing. I think they'll stand out. Maybe. Just a little bit of something to add to it. We'll decide at the end whether it needs something else. It could have some sprinkles, like very short straight stitch randomly placed in different colours. That would also work. So I'm going to do the same with the next two cupcakes, and then we'll come back for some bunting. This is how it is looking. Definitely needs some extra colour, some embellishment, which I'll do with stitches, and some bunting, which will go scoop in the centre. We're going to just look at our colours that I got. I think I might leave the green because it is green heavy. And we've got stripy purple and a couple of greys, which I just thought went well. So we're going to just cut into them to make some triangles. I think it will be brought together with stitching. Yeah, just a little wide there. There we go, and that's about the right size. So we'll have a few of each. Actually use this many because I would like some of the colourful thread showing through as well. So first, some embellishment on the icing. I think this is such a prominent flower on this cupcake. I'm gonna do something with that as well, but just break up all the stripes that we've got going on down here. And here is my finished celebration picture. So we've got our 3 cakes. I added a little bit of colour and some embellishments. Got our lace tablecloth and our bunting. Could have left the bunting loose, that also would have worked. And then I decided I love this green, but it's very green. So I put some little straight stitches or seed stitch, and I thought that looked like confetti. So thought overall it's just a nice picture of a celebration. It could be at a wedding, it could be a street party. This is my first year on YouTube, so I'm celebrating. Could be birthday, wedding anniversary, anything you like. A cupcake is always a good idea.